Hello, and welcome back to Suzerain, the Kingdom of Rizia, from Taurus. In today's episode, well, we've got some stuff going on, like the AN Threat Mitigation Protocol. The AN Threat Mitigation Protocol is being employed by Wellen to address the contentious issue of the Zeal return, addition underscored by significant geopolitical risks. The protocol reserved for critical scenarios reflects the gravity of the situation, as the kingdom navigates the complex alliance of nations framework. Wellen announcement throws Zeal into confusion. Royal Herald correspondence in Zeal says that the region's population was shocked by Wellen's President Victor Smollett's announcements that the region would not be returned to Rizia on the agreed-upon handover date. In a move viewed as a serious violation of the bilateral agreement signed in 1926, President Smollett announced in Cairo that due to national security concerns, the Zeal region will remain under Wellen's administration indefinitely. Local residents of Zeal, many of whom are of Rizian descent and had been anticipating reunion with the kingdom, have voiced their disappointment and fear over this sudden shift in policy. The coming days are likely to see an intense diplomatic effort from Rizia and the international community. The people of Zeal, their future hanging in the balance, will be watching closely. We have geopolitical. Significant reduction of Arcatian military presence in war-torn regions. Arcatia embarks on a significant military de-escalation, reducing its troop presence and entrusting operations as Cyberus International and Palantir Security Solutions. This withdrawal indicates a pivot to a strategy of decreased conflict intensity and anticipates the stabilization of once turbulent regions. The move has imminent effects on global markets, with energy prices showing signs of stabilization reflect the diminishing clout of the CSP. In key territories like Narashima and Zelina, as Arcatia reassesses its foreign military commitments, the repercussions of regional stability and power hierarchies are set to stabilize for now. We have Canal emerges as strategic ATO hub. The Republic of Canal, strategically nestles at the nexus of critical maritime corridors and land-based trade routes, has risen to prominence as an indispensable hub for ATO. The strategic ascendancy comes as the nation deftly capitalizes on its geographical advantages, facilitating critical logistic support and serving as a bulwark for military oversight in the volatile regions of North Sea and South Marcopa. Quinal's enhanced role within the ATO underscores its escalated geopolitical reverence and signifies a shrewd alignment of the national interests with those of the alliance, cementing its status as a central player in the theater of global diplomacy. We have Aeon Shocker. Wellen refuses to relinquish Zeal. An eventful South Marcopa-focused meeting of the Alliance of Nations. One big takeaway was Wellen is willing to go to extreme lengths to keep its hold on the Rizian region of Zeal, including invoking a little-sided AN protocol to delay the expected handover. The Alliance of Nations has yet to challenge Wellen President Victor Smollett's announcement, in which he claimed the national security in Zeal was still too compromised to allow for an orderly transition in the region. Though his decision was highly unusual, President Smollett was well within his legal right to make such an announcement. Whether the international community will support him is another story. The Xylandian Chancellor interrupts this session. What should have been a calm, peaceful Alliance of Nations sections, exclusively focusing on issues of the South Marcopan region, turned into a grand-standing platform for Xylandian Chancellor Emmerich Hegel, who used the opportunity to make multiple interruptions. Hegel, yeah, he might as... I mean, their nation might as well be a superpower. I'm just glad to have him. Maybe? I mean, compared to our strength down here, they might as well be a superpower to us, and I would love to have them keeping on our side. I don't know why they are. I mean, I think it's just... my enemy of my enemy is my friend in this scenario. I mean, we're not exactly making much sense to be working together, but I'm willing to work with them. Anyways, Hegel is ostensibly present because of his country's new relationship with Republic of Morella, whose leader, Alma Sultana, spoke at the proceedings. However, he seemed more interested in weighing in the Pelesian-Rizian relations, with one particular outburst directed at Pelesian Grand Duke Axel Reinhardt. We need not remind you that Pales was once Valgish territory, and that Chancellor Hegel's interruptions may not have been entirely altruistic. Yeah, that is definitely possible. Public transportation inefficiency crisis. Public transportation faces future crisis. A Rizian public transportation system is grappling with an efficiency crisis strained by burgeoning demands and passenger numbers. The transportation officials are pushing for urgent actions, highlighting the need for increased funding and modernization. The government must decide between investing in infrastructural improvement, technological upgrades, or exploring alternative transit solutions. The outcome will crucially impact the daily lives of Rizian and efficiency of urban mobilization. The Rizian infrastructure network is our backbone. Yep, we made a little speech again and have done nothing about it. Let's go. Vital rail link fails. Due to a technical issue affecting a vital railroad switch near Quales, train traffic between Porto Drazan and Manquiz has been cut. While the issue is likely to be resolved within a few days, the closure of the vital railway is affecting not only passenger traffic, but also the transport of goods between Manquiz Harbor and the rest of the country. Ramis the Red, wine launch event. Alright, we're gonna go to a wine launch. I mean, hey, I like going to a wine launch. Our wine industry is doing really freaking good. I mean, right now it's 2/3 of my available budget is from that wine industry bonus, so I'm definitely coming here to support it. In the fertile fields of Colles, the Cotavo vineyards were among the oldest in Rizia. They were run by a revered winemaking family, now in their 5th generation, who had long ago been awarded noble status for the fine wine they provided the kingdom. Tonight they had invited my family and the council over for a ceremony and corking of their latest vintage, Ramis the Red, bottled on my coronation day. It was now ready for drinking. I wished I was in more celebratory mood. One's announcements that the AN had plunged the country into panic. I was besieged by demands to take action to get Zil back. As if that weren't enough, tensions with Pales were higher than ever. We were still awaiting the arbitration results. In the meantime, the Rizian Navy remained deployed around the Aurelis field, despite the international community's growing concern. For now, all I had to do was open a wine bottle. But even that was politicized. Hugo had stressed the importance of keeping the Catavo family loyal to our house. Our motorcade rolled up to the vineyard entrance, where a festival tent decorated in blue, white, and gold of the Rizian flag had been set up. After a thorough security sweep, my mother, Estella, Vina, Hugo, and I proceeded to our table. Pebble smoothly approached and poured us glasses of sparkling water. I had the pleasure of servicing the pre-tasting with the vineyard staff. I must say the family has truly outdone themselves this time. Oh, splendid. I can't wait. I honestly think you'll love it. It's light on the plate at first, but it has hidden depths. That sounds perfect, Mr. Adria, but please stick to the conservative pours for His Majesty. It's unbecoming of a king to get intoxicated at these functions. Lucitia, Elena, and Lorenzo walked past us and were seated at a table next to ours. All three were dressed more festively than the simple formal wear they wore to council meetings, but Lucitia's slinky, intricately bedded yellow gown was particularly eye-catching. My mother turned to me and muttered under her breath, "Oh my, the mountains of Monteclair are on full display tonight." You're just jealous that for once someone else's outfit is better than yours. Vina stiffled on Vigil. I still don't understand what we're doing here, especially with all that's been going on. Politics, Your Highness. In case our foreign situation escalates, we'll require the support of House Torres in our home province more than ever. Come to think of it, won't the Valender Quiz nobility want me skinned alive for taking the side of Malleus the AN? A predicament, yes, but not a crisis. Many members of our house still have Valgish blood. Of course, they despise the direction taken by the old empire, but some sympathy may remain. All you have to do is reassure them that their assets will remain stable. Oh, I'll assure that to them. The rest of the attendees began filling in. It was a small, elite crowd, comprising barons and baronesses, viscounts and CEOs from around the region. They bowed as they passed my table, but some of their smiles seemed ungenuine. I thought I heard someone whisper, "Sword lover." Estella flashed me a look of warning. "There's no pleasing these people, darling. Better to ignore them." After everyone had settled in, the head of the winery gave a short opening greeting, then welcomed me onto the stage. I stepped behind the microphone. A magnum-sized bottle of Ramis the Red stood on the table behind me. My esteemed fellow nobles, I am honored to lend my name to this exceptional creation, produced by the best winemakers in the country. No, the world. This wine will only grow better over time, just like the reign of the king it is named after. I am heartened that so many of you have come here to celebrate tonight, especially in the wake of recent events. I'm confident that with your help, Rizia will become stronger than ever. As the most privileged province in Rizia, Velocris has the duty to lead the way forward. We should not hesitate to look to our fellow royal houses for support. The Azaros military and industrial prowess has served our kingdom well in the past and will in the future. Lusatia applauded, surprising gratitude spreading across her face. She was the only one clapping. I promised that if we open ourselves to new alliances, untold prosperity will be our reward. The attendants applauded slightly more loudly. Tonight, let us remind ourselves how much Rizia still has to celebrate. I heard cheers as a representative of the winery handed me a ceremonial corkscrew and a glass. As a symbol of unity, Justice Lusatia of House Azara will uncork the first bottle. With a stunned yet delighted expression, Lusatia took the stage. An assistant quickly procured 2 glasses. My war counselor opened the bottle and poured us each a small amount. To all of you. Drink. We clinked glasses and drank. It was delicious. A light, refreshing taste gradually developed into a darker, more complex finish. There was a final round of applause as Lusatia and I stepped off the stage. Pablo and the winery staff began circulating around the tables with wine and food. It was an honor to be called on stage, Your Majesty, especially after your mention of my house in your speech. It didn't sound like House Taurus approved of either, though. I meant what I said. House Taurus and House Cesaro should be closer together. I wonder where you got that idea from. Still smiling, she returned to her seat. I spent a good several hours mingling with relatives and fellow nobles, posing for photographs with the winemakers and fending off journalists. Every time I attempted to sit down and eat, I was deluged with more requests. My glass, on the other hand, was constantly being filled. By the end of the evening, I was having some trouble keeping names and faces straight. The tent gradually emptied out as guests departed. The winery had an don't drink while, not having food in your gullet. I've heard that from people who actually drink. Me, in real life, I had 1 sip, months after I actually turned 21, and then was like, well, that's all the drink I ever want to have, and I haven't drank since. So, I couldn't tell you too much, but the winery had an attached luxury villa where our delegation had been invited to stay for the night. Hugo, Estella, Vina, and I began saying our final goodbyes before making our way upstairs. Despite the shaky start, I think our fellow guests came away quite happy. I would call this evening a smashing success. With the emphasis on smashing, Vina was clutching my mother's arm, looking half-dazed. Promise the red, long may it rain. That's right, darling. Now let's get you to bed. I heard an uproarious burst of laughter from the other side of the room. My three counselors were still at the table. Lucetia's eyes were sparkling as she regaled the other two with an apparently hilarious anecdote. I'll be right behind you. Just have to say goodnight to my staff. Take your time, sweetheart. She gave me a knowing smile. Fina was too busy attempting to in her ball gown to register what I'd said. As my family headed out, I walked over to my counselor's table. And he just stormed into my barracks without a stitch and screaming, "If you weren't a duchess, I'd have you drawn and quartered." Having a good evening, Duchess Azara? Oh! She, Laurento, and Alina immediately straightened up and stopped laughing. Your Majesty, the Duchess was telling us about the time she hit her commander's officer's fatigue while he was swimming. It was a dare back in basic training. I scrubbed the kitchen floor for 3 weeks, but it was worth it. It's part of a drinking game, Your Majesty. A rather infantile one. Can I play? If you think you can handle it, Your Majesty. She had a teasing look in her eyes. I wondered how much she'd had to drink. Pebble, some wine for the king, please. Right away, Mr. Escobil. Pebble approached the table and gave me a generous pour of Ramus the Red. Thank you, Pebble. Lucita turned to me. Now, have you played facts or fiction before? I have not, Duchess. It's simple. You tell us 3 statements about yourself. 2 of them have to be true, and 1 must be a lie. Each of us then guesses which statement is true. If we guess wrong, we have to drink. Oh, man. She gestured to Pebble, who quickly topped. So it's 3 truths and a lie. It's 2 truths and a lie, and if you fail, you drink. She gestured to Pebble, who quickly topped up her wine glass. It was my turn. I'll let His Majesty choose the next player. Miss Werner, if you please. I still find this childless, but in my day, if people wanted to get drunk, they just drunk. But if you insist. She thought for a moment. I have an antique coin collection that's worth more than my house. My late husband and I once undertook a 3-week sailing trip to Gomlin and back. Once I had to stop Queen Liza from purchasing a diamond necklace from the Rizian treasury money. There's no way your coin collection is worth that much. I can believe Her Majesty King Lizia would attempt such a purchase, but not that you would stop it, Miss Werner. Laurento grinned and shook his head. This is too easy. If there's one thing you hated more than sailing, it was your dearly departed husband. Lena sighed. Yes, that's right. I picked up my glass and took a healthy sip. Lucitia did the same. You've got a fortune in antique coins, do you? Ask me anything about the Marquian ducats and resonant medallions. Well done, Miss Werner. Who's next? Go ahead, Mr. Escobil. With pleasure. He gave his wine glass a dramatic swirl. When I'm in the diplomatic meetings that I know is trivial, I draw caricatures instead of taking notes. When I was just out of university, I challenged the mayor of Syllabus to a duel. I actually shouted out, "All hail the new queen," at His Majesty's King Velaru's coronation. I was at my father's coronation. I would have heard if anyone shouted queen. It's more plausible than a counselor admitting to the king that he's been failing to take notes at meetings. I'd had the duel story 100 times, Laurento. You didn't challenge the mayor's syllabus. It was the Earl of Jails. Laurento gave her an abashed look. You know me too well, Miss Werner. Drink. This means you've been treating serious diplomatic matters with frivolity, Mr. Escobil. Unimportant ones only, Your Majesty. I assure you I take my position very seriously. I don't mind as long as you get the job done. Laurento gave a sigh of relief. Lucitia tapped the side of her glass for attention. Who's our next victim? Since I missed your story, I think you should take another turn, Duchess Azara. Lucita gave me a sly smile. As you wish, Your Majesty. Despite my Azaro heritage, I couldn't stand the sight of blood as a child. There was a time when I fainted from prickling my own finger. My cousin Zolo confided in me that she despised her husband-to-be, so I falsified evidence that he was having an affair with a commoner. The engagement was broken off at once, and I have a lucky set of undergarments that I wear to important meetings and military exercises. Intriguing, dear Duchess, but false. Azaros don't pray to superstition. I agree. You don't seem like the lucky underwear type. I'd sooner believe the idea of Lucitia Azaro fainting at a drop of blood. Lucitia shook her head. You had it right, Your Majesty. I don't wear lucky underwear on important days. Alina took a prim sip of her wine. Lucita continued with a mischievous smile on her face. Actually, on such occasions, I find it invigorating to wear nothing at all beneath my uniform. God. Laurento and Alina shot each other an amused look. Pebble politely coughed as he poured us refills. Perhaps now would be a good time for Deshazar to retire. There's been a great deal of wine flowing tonight. It's all harmless fun, Pebble, isn't it, Your Majesty? The Duchess is a grown woman, Pebble. Don't police her drinking. Pebble frowned. My apologies to you both. I was only trying to be helpful. If you'd like to be helpful, you can fetch us a new bottle. This one's almost empty. Straight away, Duchess Azaro. This is not a good idea. This is a very, very bad idea. But anyways, he disappeared to the kitchen and came back with more wine. Lucita looked at me expectantly. I'll give it a go, if you don't mind. My council looked at each other with no small amount of excitement. I could feel my head spinning. I racked my brain for ideas. Advantages on Derby. Well, disguise the commoner. Or the king. I think I'd like to be if that's a true, so I'm definitely choosing that. That's insane. I have a scar on my shoulder blade in this exact same shape of the Pales Administrative District. I can belch the Rizian national anthem. I was having trouble concentrating. I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. I feel so goddamn lonely all the time. The others exchanged troubled looks. Laurento cautiously spoke up. Of course you're not lonely with your family in the palace, Your Majesty. That was the lie. The others quickly nodded their assent. I could see Lucinta scrutinizing me closely. No, that was the truth. There was a palpable feeling of tension in the air, my table mats consciously avoiding looking at me or each other. So what was the lie, Your Majesty? You all guessed wrong. Why aren't you drinking? Lucita and the others quickly drained their glasses. Pablo cleared his throat. Your Majesty, you have a long day ahead of you tomorrow. Why don't we adorn? Yes, that sounds like a wise idea. Good night, Your Majesty. Thank you for enlightening time. Yes, we all learned a great deal, possibly too much. Lucita shook her head. The more intimately we know each other, the better we can fight as a team. It's an old army tactic. Shall I escort you to your quarters, Your Majesty? No, I'll get there myself. I lurched unsteadily to my feet. Pablo rushed to my side and took my arm. Let's go, Your Majesty. I suddenly began acutely aware of how much wine I'd had to drink. Pebble helped keep me steady as we made our way upstairs to my suit. He swiftly ushered me inside and took off my coat. The butler's quarters here are connected by an adjoining door. Just knock if you need me. Pebble walked over to the side of the room. He paused with his hand on the doorknob. I hope you enjoyed your evening, Your Majesty. Thank you, Pebble. Good night. I'll see you in the morning. He left the room and gently closed the door behind him. With some difficulty, I undressed and crawled to the bed. I was just starting to drift off to sleep when a soft knock came at the door. I went to the door and opened it. Lucita was standing there, still dressed in the beaded gown she'd worn earlier. Your Majesty, I've just received a message of great importance from Welland Intelligence. May I come in? Of course, Duchess Azara. Lucita walked into my suite. I followed her in and closed the door. As soon as it had shut, she stepped towards me. There was a look of urgency in her eyes. I took her hands and pulled her closer. We stood still for a moment, regarding each other. You're drunk. She gave me a scornful look. I've been drinking men under the table since I was 18. Takes more than a little wine to do me in. If you didn't think I'm taking advantage of you. I don't want this to be the way we get to it. Let me take you on a proper date. I'm right here. Isn't this more efficient? Or whatever you say. Till next time, then. She gave a flustered bow and left the room. I shut the door and got back to bed. I slept more soundly than I did in months. I am a gentleman, after all. Let me take you on a real date. Bad idea. Bad idea. Bad idea. I don't care. As part of increasingly tight security measures, public gatherings of over 50 people are now prohibited in the region of Zeal. While critics see this as a restriction of voices calling for a return of the region to Rizia, officials have guaranteed Rizia that the measures are merely intended to increase the safety of both Rizian and Wessex living in the region. Yeah, of course. Nothing wrong. Rufus Gregg's royal gossip, King, Duchess, pop the cork. If you weren't at the Rams the Red and Corking Gala and Cuz late night, do you even exist? For their big bash, winemaking power couple, Lord Edward and Lady Safina, opened their doors to the royal family, the royal council, and who of the Veloquiz elite, from estate owner and noted wine patron Fabius Torres to heavyweight investor Gustave Montrel. But the real guest of honor was Duchess of and Counselor Lucita Azaro, whose gorgeous gown was turning heads, even before His Majesty invited her on stage to pour the first glass together. A fabulous night of dancing, hobnobbing, and of course sampling the wares ensued. Though unfortunately we members of the press were kicked out of the venue before anything juicy could happen. You'll have to use your imagination. Interesting. Lesbia condemns Rizia, supports Pale's in arbitration claim. Boo! Reiterating what he had already pronounced at the Alliance of Nations, Lesbian Prime Minister issued an official statement of support for Grand Duchy of Pales in the ongoing Arias Gasfield arbitration case, with the added implication that its fellow ATO members, including Quinal and the Republic of Arcadia, backed Pales' claim as well. He went on to condemn Rizia for its use of naval blockade during the arbitration process, expressed his hope for a swift resolution of this situation. Rumburg denounces Welland over Zil claim. The King of Rumburg has officially denounced the Republic of Welland's decision to continue occupying the Zil region, past the terms of the agreed-upon treaty between Welland and Rizia, said a spokeswoman on behalf of the Queen Beatrice yesterday. The condemnation comes to no surprise given the familial and political bonds between the King of Rizia and Rumburg. Sources say that a number of other monarchies in the Grace Organization are preparing similar statements, thereby increasing pressure on Welland to relinquish his hold on Zeal. We expect that, despite the bravado Smollett showed at the recent AN session, he will be forced to find a quick and diplomatic solution to what he claims is a national security issue. I hope so. Sordland offers investment opportunities. Choose to negotiate with Sordland or decline. Amidst a recession, Sordland's government, led by Alfonso, has presented a potential lucrative bond sale trade opportunity to be discussed at the capital Sordland. This royal visit will include the household and has additional expenditures. Let's hold the discussion. It sucks that I have to use my money, but let's do it. Xena continent positions as anti-CSP front. The Xena continent includes many nations bolstering their stance as a formidable opposition to the CSP's influence. This informal network encompasses a broad coalition of nations that are aligning their policies and military strategies to counterbalance the CSP's regional ambitions. There still persists a palpable wariness towards the ATO, hinting at a deep-seated desire for greater political autonomy. As Xena positions itself as a counterweight to Malinist dominance, the continent's geopolitical significance is magnified within the global rivalry. I see. Sordland prepares to host King Ramus. After we agreed to attend talks in Holsword regarding a lucrative investment opportunity, the Swordish capital now hurriedly prepares itself to host our king. Reportedly, the former royal quarters in Maroon Palace are now to house royalty once more, even if only for a few days. That's really cool, actually. I think I'm also I don't love it, but I think I am going to, just in case this needs a lot of stuff. I don't want to, like, you know, I can't, even though I wanted to, I can't do another trade for energy. So I think I'm actually going to sell some military equipment in exchange for some budget. I don't love it. I actually quite dislike it, but I just don't like having such a low budget just in case I need to be able to get something. It's just too important just in case I need like 3, for example, to be able to do a deal or something. That's very important for the future. I need to be able to do it if necessary. So that's just what I'm doing. But, oh wow, now we're getting -1 per turn for weakening traditions as well. That's always good. Man, we're getting so many minuses for our authority. Like, ooh, that is just not good at all. But, you know, we'll figure it out. I'm sure everything's fine. Everything's going to be okay. And let's just move on. But yeah, this is a good time to go ahead and end this episode. Next episode will be, well, we're going to be having our delegation trip to discuss this bond offer. But until then, I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And as always, peace.